Lord, we thank you for your word today. We thank you for this wonderful time that we can be able to sit and discuss your word and just learn from it, Lord. So we pray for understanding, Lord. Amen. And so we know that Micah was written by Prophet Micah himself, and it was prophesied between the 750 and 686 BC into the 7th century of the believers, the leaders of Samaria, that's in the northern kingdom, and of Jerusalem, that's the capital of the southern kingdom. So basically, the message of Micah is that God's kingdom comes through keeping his covenant with Israel's as ancestors and all Israel in the coming days. And so in Micah chapter 1, we saw about God's sovereignty, and we saw that God was just in judging the wickedness of the people because they turned against the people. Micah chapter 2 Stanley helped us to see that these people had not only turned against God, but they had also turned against each other in that they were doing evils against fellow men. Then chapter 3 we see that the leaders are also rebuked because they are part of this evil that is happening. They have contributed to Israel's judgment. And chapter 4 and 5 we see a little bit of hope whereby we are being told about this king who shall come from Bethlehem. And chapter 6 to chapter 7 verse 1 to 7 we see a message of judgment still to the people of Israel. So basically 80% of this book is about judgment. That God shall bring judgment to the people because the people have sinned. And if you are to ask yourself, is God justified to bring judgment to these people? The answer would be absolutely. He is justified to bring judgment upon them. And so for us to be able to see and to be able to appreciate the message that is here, it's a message of hope. Yes, I've titled it, it's a message of hope. But you have to see that this hope is not just coming immediately, but it is coming when God has already brought judgment upon these people. And so basically, I've divided my portion today, the verses that you have, into 5. So from verse 9 to 10, we shall see the humble state of God's people. Verses 11 to 13, we shall see a restored city of the people of God. Verses 15 to 16, we shall see that God cares for his people as in the days of the old. Then 17 to 18, we shall see that the nations are brought low because Israel is restored. And verse 18 to 20, we shall see the glorious mercy and pardon of our God. Verses 8 and read says, "Do not gloat over me, my enemy. Though I have fallen, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light." And you ask yourself, is this the same Israel? You see, in chapter 7 from verse 2, it says, "The faithful have been swept from the land. Not one upright person remains." There's not one upright person who remains. Verse 3 tells us, second portion of verse 2, that everyone lies in wait to shed blood. They hunt each other with nets. Verse 3 goes on that says, "Both hands are skilled in doing evil." Remember, we're being told about Israel. The ruler demands gifts. The judge accepts bribes. And you wonder, is this the same Israel that are saying that do not gloat over me, my enemy? That though they have fallen, they shall rise again? And you know, it's a surprise to us that these people who have sinned against God, they are coming confidently to him and saying that, you know what, the Lord will be my light. And here we see that God is showing grace upon these people. He's showing grace upon people who are ungodly. Verse 9 goes on and tells us, the first portion, "Because I have sinned against him, I will bear the Lord's wrath." So first, Israel was confident that God would show grace upon him. But here we're being told something that is slightly different, and which is an interesting twist. That God is bringing judgment to the ungodly, which is another surprise that we're seeing. In our society today, we see that wicked people prosper, that people can embezzle funds and go away with it. So we are living in an era where people are doing wrong, but nothing seems to be happening to them. Nothing is happening to them. But here Israel is acknowledging that because they have sinned against him, they will bear the Lord's wrath. And so we see that God is not only showing grace upon them, but he's also bringing judgment upon them because they have sinned. So Israel acknowledges that he has sinned, and so they shall face the judgment of God. And it continues, says, "Until he pleads my case and upholds my cause." Again, another interesting thing. And here we're being brought into a court situation whereby God is not only judging the Israelites, but He's also defending them. That He pleads their case and He upholds their cause. Isn't that interesting? That God is the judge and the jury? And for sure, if God is the one who is defending you, you're assured that you're going to win that case. And this is unexpected to the Israelites because they have sinned against God. But they can come confident and say that until He pleads my case, they shall face the judgment of God, yes. But when God pleads their case and upholds their judgment and takes us to the next portion, that tells us He will bring me into the light and I will see His righteousness. And so we see, because of the execution of God's justice and judgment to the Israelites, they will be saved. That God's judgment to the Israelites saves them instead of condemning them. We proceed to verse 10 that says, "Then my enemy will see it and will be covered with shame. She who said to me, 'Where is the Lord your God?' My eyes will see her downfall. Even now she will be trampled underfoot like mire in the streets." So the enemies once mocked the Israelites because God was passing judgment on them. And they were saying that the people of Israel, the city is becoming desolate. But now the situation is turning, that those who mocked Israel, they shall see God's hand being upon her. And maybe a good reminder is that here the nation of Israel is speaking. Micah is the one who is prophesying. And so we see that the situation is turning. The enemies are actually beginning to see that something is happening. Restoration is coming to the city, to the people of Israel. Verse 11 to 13 goes ahead telling, "The day of building your walls will come, the day for extending your boundaries. In that day people will come to you from Assyria, the cities of Egypt, even from Egypt to the Euphrates, and from sea to sea, from mountain to mountain." And this is to show that this restoration is so big that everyone is seeing whatever that is happening. That when the time of restoration comes to the Israelites, God will send a call out far and wide to gather and restore His people. People from all over can see what is happening to the nation of Israel. Verse 13 goes ahead to tell us that the earth will become desolate because of its inhabitants as a result. And so we see that when God gathers Israel for restoration, they will come to a desolate land. And why to a desolate land? Because already God's judgment has been passed, so the restoration is already taking place. In verse 14 to 15, we read, "Shepherd your people with your staff, the flock of your inheritance, which lives by itself in a forest, in fertile pasture lands. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead as in the days long ago." Verse 15, "As in the days when you came out of Egypt, I will show them my wonders." That after God's people are brought back to the place where they belong, that they are lovingly cared for by the Lord Himself, that the Lord shepherds them and the Lord feeds them. And it emphasizes on a point, as in the days of the old, that there was a time that God's people enjoyed this kind of a close relationship with Him. And now God is restoring them back to that place, that He will show them wonders as in the days of the old. Verse 16 to 17, "Nations will see and be ashamed, deprived of all their power. They will put their hands over their mouths, and their ears will become deaf." This restoration is so big, such that the nations are actually seeing and they are actually amazed by it. That once Israel is restored, those who opposed God will see how wrong they were to oppose God's people and to oppose God Himself. And verse 17 says, "They will lick the dust like a snake, like creatures that crawl on the ground. They will come trembling out of their dens. They will turn in fear to the Lord our God and will be afraid of you." These are Israel's enemies that are actually acknowledging that this restoration is so big that they're seeing that God, they're actually seeing God and are standing in awe of who God is. They turn in fear to the Lord. They turn in fear. They're afraid of Him because They just can't imagine. Israel, which was once a desolate land, is now being restored. How can that be? In verse 18 to 20, ends by saying, "Who is a God like you, who pardons sins and forgives the transgression of the remnants of inheritance, and do not stay angry forever, but delight to show mercy." And so Micah here is glorifying God because of the forgiveness that has been brought upon Israel. That the forgiveness is so great that it cannot be compared. Saying, who is like God? Who pardons him? No God compares to him. And an interesting bit there, it says, you do not stay angry forever, but delight to show mercy. You here referring to God, that he's showing mercy to these people, not because of who they are, but because of who he is as God. That it is in his nature to show mercy to his people. That's why we're being told that he's delighting to show mercy to these people. Yes, they have sinned against God, and we've seen that all from chapter 1 all the way to the beginning of chapter 7. Judgment is being brought. Judgment and judgment after judgment. But God is showing mercy unto them because it is in his nature to show to them the mercy. And verse 19 tells us, you will again have compassion on us. You will tread on our sin. You will tread our sins underfoot and hurl all our iniquities into the depths of the sea. Here we're told he will again have compassion on us, meaning that he had compassion on them at one point, but it's happening again. That God's people once knew his compassion, but they rejected it. They resisted it. And that is why we're being told that he will again have compassion on these people. In verse 20 it tells us, you will be faithful to Jacob, show love to Abraham as you pledged on oath to ancestors in the days long ago. So Micah sees God's future work as a continuation of his past work to the fathers of Israel. He's saying that you show love, you will be faithful to Jacob and show love to Abraham as you pledged on oath to ancestors in the days long ago. So this is a continuation of the covenant that he had made long time ago to the ancestors of Israel. And so we see, all we have seen that Israel is being restored, and this is indeed a message of hope to this nation. That the sin, even if the sin was so big, God is still having mercy on them. God is still being gracious to them. Yes, you feel, they do not deserve it. You feel they do not deserve it, but God is a God of second chances, and he's showing his compassion on them. And how does this apply to us today? That, brethren, let us delight in God, that even when our sinfulness is so big, that God delights to show mercy to us. All through we have seen that Israel was justified to be judged by God. And the same case to us. We deserve that punishment. We do deserve that punishment. God is justified in punishing us. And yes, we go astray, but God chooses to pardon us. God chooses to pardon us. And so, brethren, let us rejoice in this great hope that we have because of Jesus Christ, who comes and gives us the privilege of coming to God, who restores the broken relationship that was there between man and God, that we can come to him, that though we are sinful, though we are weak, we can still come confidently and approach with confidence the throne of God.